What destroys you is not what happens to you, but how deeply you care about it. You've spent your whole life trying to care more about people, about goals, about what the world thinks of you. But what if this very effort is the source of your exhaustion? What if the way out isn't through more control, more emotion, more investment, but through letting go? Not a cynical detachment, not numbness, not apathy. But a deliberate and sacred choice to care only for what is truly yours to carry. This video is not about becoming indifferent. It's about becoming sovereign. The power of not caring is not loud. It doesn't shout. It whispers like a monk leaving the palace. Like Marcus Aurelius, pen in hand, writing through war and death about the one freedom no emperor could command: inner peace. This is his darkest lesson. Worry isn't merely a feeling, it's a framework, a philosophy, a subconscious contract we sign with our fears. It pretends to be caution. It masquerades as responsibility. But worry in its essence is an act of mental arrogance, a belief that if we think long and hard enough, we might prevent the chaos of life from touching us. Marcus Aurelius, perhaps more than any other Roman emperor, lived in constant contact with uncertainty. War on the frontiers, political conspiracies in the Senate, personal loss within his own family. He had every reason to worry, and yet he refused. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. This quote isn't a platitude, it's a revolution. Marcus is not saying the world is harmless. He's saying your power lies in your interpretation, and that interpretation, unlike the external world, is within your command. Worry is seductive because it feels active. When you're worrying, you feel engaged. You're doing something. But what you're doing is rehearsing pain. Over and over. Rehearsing failure, rejection, death, loneliness. Things that may never happen, and things that when they do will still hurt, no matter how many times you imagine them. The Stoics taught that worry is misused imagination, and they're right. You imagine your partner leaving you, so you become anxious, jealous, controlling. But this very anxiety may push them away. You imagine losing your job, so you can't sleep, and fatigue makes you less competent. You imagine getting sick, so you obsess over your health, and the obsession itself makes you ill. Worry doesn't protect, it poisons. But here's the hidden truth: worry is also about ego. It's the ego whispering, if I think enough, I can outmaneuver life, I can be prepared for everything. I can suffer in advance and somehow soften the blow. But Marcus knew what life really was: wild, indifferent, impermanent. He didn't try to conquer its storms, he became the calm in their midst. Today I escaped from anxiety. Or no, I discarded it because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside. Discarded, not suppressed, not ignored, but consciously dropped, like a soldier dropping unnecessary armor. You do not need worry to be vigilant. You do not need fear to be prepared. You do not need suffering to be strong. Let go of the illusion that your pain will save you. Let go of the inner courtroom where every possible outcome is put on trial, and replace it with this simple truth: you were never meant to carry what you cannot control. Imagine a man drowning not in the sea, but in a puddle, because he never learned which depths were dangerous and which were safe to walk through. That's what most of us do with our emotions. We drown in shallow waters, in matters we were never meant to carry. The Stoics, and Marcus Aurelius in particular, were obsessed with one thing above all: discernment. Discernment is the sword that cuts through chaos. It is the art of knowing what belongs to you and what doesn't. What is your responsibility, and what is merely the weather of the world? You have power over your mind, not outside events. This is not just a line from his journal, it's a dividing line. One side holds serenity, the other, suffering. But how often do we confuse the two? How often do we place our self-worth in the hands of strangers? Our peace in the outcome of things we do not control? our happiness in applause we cannot summon. Marcus teaches us to draw the line clearly. What is within my control? My thoughts, my reactions, my values, my character. What is not? The weather, other people's behavior, the past, death, fortune. And yet most people spend 90% of their mental energy on the second list. This confusion leads to paralysis, to burnout, to resentment. The Stoic doesn't aim to be emotionless. He aims to be precise. He does not waste his fire trying to warm a stone. This practice of distinction is not passive. It's an act of power. To say, "This is not mine," and let it go, that takes more courage than clinging. It is the courage to stand in the storm without needing to stop the rain. Marcus Aurelius didn't control the fates of empires. He barely controlled his own body as illness ravaged it, but he controlled his soul. And in doing so he remained untouched by the madness around him. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Stop chasing the world's approval. Stop begging the storm to soften. Instead, build shelter within. When you learn to separate what is yours from what is not, life becomes lighter, pain becomes cleaner, decisions become clearer, and peace, real peace, is no longer something you pursue. It is something you inhabit. To not care, truly not care, is an act of rebellion in a world that thrives on validation. And for many, the fear isn't about detachment itself. It's about what that detachment looks like to others. What if they think I'm cold, selfish, unfeeling? What if they see me not reacting and assume I don't love them? But here's what Marcus Aurelius would remind you. The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject. Your inner world is the subject. Your peace is the subject. Your sanity. And most people, even those close to you, do not understand the weight you carry, the wounds you've stitched, the battles you fight in silence. To not care isn't to stop loving, it's to stop leaking. You stop leaking your energy to arguments that don't matter. You stop leaking your presence to people who never see you. You stop leaking your identity into roles you never chose. The fear of seeming indifferent is often the fear of no longer performing. We perform kindness. We perform loyalty. We perform guilt. We smile while breaking. We nod while screaming inside. But you are not an actor. You are a soul. To reclaim your life, you must be willing to look uninterested. Even when your heart is full, you must be willing to disappoint, even when your intention is pure. Because what's at stake is not your image, it's your essence. Marcus didn't write for applause. He wrote to stay sane. He didn't ask, "Will this be understood?" He asked, "Is this true?" And so must you. If silence is the price for clarity, pay it. If distance is the cost of peace, walk it. If judgment is the toll for freedom, bear it. You are not here to be perceived. You are here to be real. Not caring, when practiced wisely, is not a lack of empathy. It is the return of self-respect. You don't owe the world your constant reaction. You don't owe everyone your emotional exposure. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your serenity. Care deeply about what matters, but let the rest pass, like wind against the mountain, because that mountain is you. We live in a masquerade. Every day we wake up and choose a mask. Some wear confidence to hide fear. Others wear kindness to cover resentment. Some wear perfection because they are terrified of being ordinary. Marcus Aurelius warned us not of tyrants, but of illusions, especially the illusion of self. It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. This is the tragedy of the modern soul, so outwardly connected, so inwardly lost. In an age of infinite visibility, authenticity has become rebellion. We curate our identities, edit our personalities, filter our flaws, and slowly, invisibly, we vanish. You are taught to succeed, but not to exist, to impress, but not to express, to be seen, but not to be known. The Stoics called this the theater of the persona, the false self we craft to survive society. But what happens when the role consumes the actor? You forget who you were before the applause. You lose your voice under the weight of performance. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of one of the greatest civilizations, wrote more about integrity than power. He was surrounded by flattery, and yet he looked inward. Be tolerant with others, and strict with yourself, because he knew external success means nothing if your soul is bankrupt. Every time you betray your truth to maintain approval, you abandon yourself, and that abandonment is cumulative. You don't feel it right away, but one day, you look in the mirror and see only echoes. Who is this person I've become? Why does everything feel numb? Why does joy feel counterfeit? It's not depression. It's not burnout. It's the grief of a soul exiled from itself. To remove the mask is terrifying. It is to risk rejection. But as Marcus wrote, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, not the quantity of your followers, not the perfection of your brand, not the applause of the crowd. You do not need to impress to belong. You do not need to prove to be loved. You do not need to perform to be enough. You just need to be true. Remove the mask, even if your hands shake, even if your voice trembles, even if no one claps, because that is when life begins, not when you're seen, but when you are known, and the soul only thrives in truth. There's a moment in every soul's journey where silence becomes more valuable than noise, where presence becomes more sacred than performance, and where disinterest, rather than being a weakness, becomes wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, in the heart of his reign, knew this deeply. As death loomed and betrayal echoed through the halls of Rome, he chose calm, not apathy, but a clear refusal to let chaos define his inner weather. You have been made by nature for the purpose of working with others, but if they don't accept your help, withdraw. Don't make a show of it, just step back. There is power in that withdrawal, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that transcends. Disinterest is not disconnection. It is discipline. It is the sacred pause before reaction, the quiet no to madness. In a culture that screams for attention, to not care is an act of sovereignty. To no longer give your thoughts to what drains you. To no longer bleed for those who never asked you to. To no longer tether your worth to outcomes, applause, or the intoxication of being right. You walk away, not because you've stopped loving, but because you've started loving yourself. The Stoic sage doesn't avoid emotion. He contains it, channels it, transforms it. He doesn't shout his wisdom, he lives it. And sometimes, the wisest thing you can do is to simply let the storm pass without stepping into it. Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look there. Wisdom isn't always found in books or debates. It often comes when you stop talking, stop forcing, stop proving, and simply listen. To what? To the still voice beneath your ego. The quiet knowing that says, you don't have to answer this insult. You don't have to fix their misunderstanding. You don't have to sacrifice your joy to validate your point. Disinterest becomes wisdom when it's rooted in discernment, when you know your energy is sacred, and not everything is worthy of it. So you disengage not from life, but from illusion. You stop proving, you stop explaining, you stop rehearsing pain, and you begin to embody peace, because peace is not found in being right, being heard, or being celebrated. Peace is found in not needing to be. This is the part they don't teach in school, that there's a form of power more formidable than empires, more permanent than monuments, more liberating than victory, the power of being unmoved, not indifferent in heart, but unshaken in soul. Marcus Aurelius had every earthly reason to collapse. He watched Rome rot from within, while war raged at its borders. He was betrayed by those closest to him, lost most of his children, and lived in the daily shadow of plague. And yet his writings remain curiously gentle, deeply reflective, almost serene. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Here lies the core of his darkest and most liberating lesson. What happens outside you is never as powerful as what happens within. He learned not to fear loss, because he no longer mistook the external for the essential. He stopped begging life to be fair, because he chose to be just regardless. He no longer clung to what others did or said, because he understood that character, not reputation, was the measure of a man. He ruled not Rome, but himself. And this is your invitation, to become an emperor, not of others, but of your own interior kingdom. To stop fighting the tide and become like the deep sea, calm beneath the waves. You want to be free. Stop needing everything to go your way. Stop needing others to agree, to approve, to applaud. Care only for what you can shape. Release everything else like a leaf in the current. This is not surrender, it is alignment. And in that alignment, you will find something rare, something unbreakable. Not joy, not success, not love, but peace. The kind that remains when everything else is gone. That is the empire Marcus built, and it's the one you are being called to, now. So what now? You've heard the silence Marcus Aurelius listened to. You've traced the contours of a strength that does not roar, it hums. Now you're left with a choice. Do you return to the noise, to the endless reactions, the approval chasing, the exhausting dance of appearing to care about everything? Or do you sit, for a moment longer, in this stillness? Because here's what they don't tell you. You don't need to change your entire life to find peace. You just need to stop giving it away. Stop giving it to the stranger who cuts you off in traffic, to the critic who never knew your heart, to the future that hasn't yet arrived, to the past that no longer breathes. You don't owe your suffering to the world. You owe your healing to yourself. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice. That's not just stoicism, that's sovereignty. You are not here to be everything to everyone. You are here to become fully, quietly, irrevocably, yourself. So take a breath, feel your feet on the ground, and ask, in the voice only you can hear, what can I let go of, right now, that was never mine to carry? Let it go, let it float away like ash, and when you do, subscribe, because this path, the inner path, is just beginning, and you don't have to walk it alone.